All right, it's 10 o'clock. We are going to get started, everybody. So first of all, welcome to the webinar roundtable, leading through times of uncertainty, keeping people and strategies at the forefront. My name is Teri Fisher, and this is Carita Ducre, and we're from Insight Strategies. We're really happy to see we've got about 60 people on this webinar. So it's pretty popular right now, this topic, as we thought it would be. And we're from Insight Strategies, and Carita runs our Louisiana office, so she's out there, and we are here in Southern California where we're based. Happy to see clients of ours on this webinar and some new people too that we aren't familiar with yet. So thank you for joining. Before we jump in, I'd like everyone to just breathe. Just take a breath. And I'll clear my throat. You know, let's just get present for this webinar. We're here, we're in this together. And we're going to take you on a journey, a very short journey, but hopefully a very important one that is going to be useful for you. And our goal is to help you tap into not only the strategies of what to do in a time like this, but also the emotions that are surrounding this change and crisis at this point. I congratulate you for taking a moment to yourself and drinking in what could help you navigate this and really investing in yourself. And this is a great time to do it. This is the time to work on those things that you've never really taken the time to do it because we're constantly surrounded by input and activities. So let's take this moment to really be present, turn off your phones, shut the door. You probably got dogs and children behind you if you're working from home like most people, and just see if you can get a private moment. So I don't know about you, but since the coronavirus came into our existence here, it has felt a little bit to me, and with clients I've spoken with and who we've worked with at this time, is that it feels like we're changing the tires while the car is moving. And in that car, we don't even know where the destination is. That car doesn't look like it knows where it's headed, and I think a lot of us feel that way also. So when we're faced with unknowns and crises, it can feel like that. What's required of leaders during this time? That's what we're going to be talking with you about today. This is another image that I think is very powerful. It makes me think that the time we're in right now really does feel like there's all this splashing around and not knowing. And if you can imagine, your role as leader is the lighthouse. Your role as leader, and maybe even a parent or somebody in your family, is to represent that solid beacon with all this stuff splashing around. And it feels like we're part of that, right? All that turbulence. But if we can imagine ourselves as that lighthouse as we go through this, I think it'll really help. So we're going to be exploring this during this webinar. It makes me think during this time of other crises that I know that we've had to endure as an organization, as a family, as a country. I'm thinking of 9/11, the abrupt change that occurred with 9/11, the abrupt change that occurred, you know, even through some of the recessions that we've had to endure over the years. I think of living in California, the Encino earthquake that occurred years ago, where I was running a regional office at the time of an advertising company. And it was in the epicenter of that earthquake. And overnight, our building was yellow tagged. We could never go back in there. And we became a remote workforce right away. And the abruptness of that. Other turbulent times, I know in my life, one is also personal. And that is the diagnosis of cancer 10 years ago. And what I know I learned through that experience, what our organization learned, what our country learned from going through those turbulent and very unstable times was invaluable. And I know for a fact it has built resilience into how our business operates. We've been in business since 1994, been through a lot. It's built resilience in our family, and it's built resilience in me personally. It gives me faith and hope. Part of our job in this webinar is not only to inform, educate, have a conversation with you, but to also help you feel a little inspired when you're probably feeling a little blue. So this gives me hope too. You know, this was posted on NBC Nightly News. It was a Twitter feed, and it's Venice. You know, one of the beautiful things that have arisen from people having to be in their homes is that the murky canals have cleared. And now they can see fish visibly in the water because the boats aren't going back and forth. I think it's a beautiful metaphor for how we can see this situation, the clarity that can arise from something like this. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, just a reminder, this is a 60-minute webinar roundtable. 15 minutes are dedicated to presentation. Carita and I are going to go back and forth on this. We're going to reserve probably 10 minutes at the very end for some Q&A and some roundtable discussion through the chat box. Mute your phones. If you've got, you don't have to mute your phones because we're on the mic, no biggie. So we're going to communicate through the chat box, which if you go to the lower part of your screen, there is a chat feature. If you select that, it'll open up and you'll be actually able to see what people are talking about and chatting about and asking questions throughout. And if you have any questions about the technology or anything and you're having difficulties, emails Katie in our office. She's our operations manager, cbutler@insightstrategies.com. I'd like you to think as we go through this, as we continue, I'd like you to be thinking about, and I'd like you to get your fingers on your keyboard right now. Speaking of turbulent times, I'd like you to post what is something that you have had to endure in your life. Maybe it's something professional. Maybe it was a layoff. Maybe it was losing your job. Maybe it's something personal, like mine was cancer. And I've been through others, but that was the most abrupt and crazy. Okay, so I'd like you to just go ahead and type in the chat box. What's something that you've endured? This is a time for us to get together and share while we're on this webinar. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to learn about the emotions associated with change. Yeah, 9/11, right on, yep. Delineate what employees most need from a leader when faced with uncertainty, and learn communication strategies that engage, provide direction, and create a sense of stability. We won't get through all of these slides, but we are going to touch on some of the most critical tools and ideas that will allow you to be successful through this. We also conducted a survey. I'm going to show you, woohoo, thank you for participating in that, a pre-webinar survey. And exactly what you all selected as being the things that are most on your mind and the biggest challenges are going to be in this webinar. One is addressing employees' concerns and fears was highly ranked. Adapting policies to allow for remote work travel limitations. That's going to be on our second webinar later on today at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Shifting priorities and having to deal with that. Communication strategies, really a difficulty with communication strategies and building teams remotely and leading in times of change. So thank you for your input on that. So Insight Strategies, for those of you who haven't interacted with us before, we've been in business since 1994. Everything we do revolves around what we call Insight Strategies, organizational health and high performance framework. And that has to do with mission development, strategy development, processes around people and performance. We engage with training, with coaching, anything that has to do with equipping employees to be successful relative to the mission strategies and processes. And lastly, and most importantly, is culture shaping. We've been doing a lot of work around that these days. Your culture may be taking different form as we go through this. We do this through training, through coaching, through consulting, and speaking engagements. We have clients like the CIA. We've had clients at the CIA, Sun Microsystems, where we traveled the world, working with remote environments and globally dispersed teams. We've worked with Los Angeles Metro. We've worked with WMATA, Murphy O'Brien, Public Relations, a wonderful client that's on here as well, very well represented on this webinar. Go Health, Parker Aerospace, you name it. We've worked with a lot of different organizations. Thank you for posting. Wow, everyone's really posting some really good stuff about some of the things that you've had to endure. An owner passing away, working in HR and having to lay people off. We've been through hard times, we can do this. All right, this is me. I'm not gonna belabor it. This is Carita. We've both been involved with Insight Strategies for a long time. So you're already typing in what you've been challenged with. Thank you for that. It really helps us to know who you are on this webinar. Part of what we do on this webinar should be a role modeling for you also, what you can do with your teams in this remote environment. Questions you can ask. How can you inspire as we go along? Speaking of which, speaking of inspiration, I really love this quote from M. Scott Peck. The Chinese word for crisis consists of two characters. One of those characters represents danger, and the other one represents hidden opportunity. And through this, we have an opportunity to see what's hidden. What are the opportunities that we haven't had to even explore, think about until now? The double issue of not only the coronavirus, but an economic uncertainty, two things at once, and they're both big. So how do we benefit from tough times? Get your fingers on the chat box, please. Please get your fingers on there. How do we benefit? How do we benefit from tough times? What are we already noticing? What are we already noticing out there? I know something that I've noticed is in our Nextdoor app. Many of you are on your Nextdoor app. Ours is Nextdoor Valmani and Palos Verdes. And people are saying, I'm here to help. For anybody who's older, elderly, I'm here to help. I can deliver toilet paper. The farmer's market is no longer happening. There's a guy throwing vegetables in a truck and saying, I can come to you. It's beautiful, right? Kindness is, right? Kindness. Understanding where we are vulnerable. Thank you, Trishelle. That's so good. Understanding where we're vulnerable. Resilience, realizing what's most important. You know, I want to share something. I checked in with a client a few days ago as you're typing in. And, you know, it was so hard to hear this. She's a friend of mine who also has become a new CEO over the last few months. And what she shared with me was not only the difficulty of that, but something that was going on personally. And that was that her teenage daughter had to be entered into the hospital for a few days. And she's a teenager. And she was going to the hospital for reasons unrelated to coronavirus. And she had to leave her daughter at the door. And her daughter had to walk in on her own. And her mom, my friend, had to leave her in the care of strangers in an environment that's uncertain with coronavirus victims coming through. And the bravery that was required for her daughter to walk through those doors. And the bravery required from my friend to leave her at the door. That is building resilience in a child, an experience she'll never forget, and an experience the mom will never forget. And then she had to walk back through the doors of her office and manage a company. Wow. All right. An increase of innovative thinkers, stepping up, new collaborations, unity and humanity, not being wasteful, right? One toilet paper square at a time. I'm having to manage my teenage son on that one. Social solidarity. Oh gosh, right? So our job here as leaders is to balance the heart of the situation as well as the strategy. So we have an option. We have an option as leaders to shrink, to stay stuck, or to go big. I don't know about you, but in the last 24 hours, I've experienced all three. Today, I feel big. We're going big. We want to help. We're here. We're going big. We know we can get through this. Last night, staying stuck is, sometimes I'm having trouble getting out of bed, all right? Getting out of bed, staying stuck. Shrinking, sometimes it's having fears overcome our minds, my mind. Love this quote by George Bernard Shaw. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Okay, George, thank you, but it still hurts. Okay, so on we go. How do we go big? What is it going to require? It's going to require agility, adaptability, a growth mindset, and guess what? We will build change hardiness by going through this.
That's one of my favorite phrases, Teri.
What's that?
Change hardiness is one of my favorite phrases that I've heard. Love that. Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that, Carita, and every one of you on the webinar, when I mentioned that to Katie, who is helps with our slides and everything, She actually thought I said change heartiness, H-E-R-T. I thought, you know what? I should have put both on there.
I like both of those.
I like both. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So something we've been working with clients on for a long time is making sure that as part of your leadership competencies, that you have agility, adaptability, where your leaders are being asked and expected to operate with adaptability and agility. Guess what? We're thrown into it. It's no longer an option. Whether it's part of that list or not, we're all going to need to operate from that. Okay, that's not easy. So let's talk about the human impact. I'd like for you to get into the chat box right now, and I'd like you to chat in, to type in, name the feelings that you or others are experiencing right now with this situation. Name the feelings. What is it, right? Oh, wow.
We're seeing fear, concern about the future, lack of control, uncertainty and sadness, anxiousness, anxiety.
Yes.
You know, anxiety about the unknown.
Yeah. You know what?
Every day is a new reality, right? Every day we're waking up and hearing something new on the news.
Look at that. 2 friends currently in ICU.
Oh, Jeff, that's terrible.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. Yep.
Helplessness.
Yep. Jeff just attended the Eno Transit Senior Executive Program where we
frustration, fear and frustration.
Yeah, very good.
Teri, I just want to mention, right, with the survey that we asked folks to fill out for us before joining, you know, fear is the word that we're seeing a lot on that survey, addressing employee fears and concerns, and our own fears and concerns and uncertainty, and how do we motivate people through that?
Yeah, so true. That's such a good question. You know, and I think the answer to all this, excuse me, no matter what you're feeling, it's right. No matter what you're feeling is right. And with your employees, as you lead your employees through this, whatever they're feeling is right. And part of our job is to acknowledge that and then to help move them along and keep them moving and keep them in action and focused while that turbulence is just surrounding them. Okay, state of fatigue, sure, yep. You know, I really appreciate this quote too by Erica Jong. I've accepted fear as a part of life, specifically the fear of change. I've gone ahead despite the pounding in the heart that says, turn back. You know what's hard? It reminds me of childbirth in a way, this situation, because there's no turning back. You know, there's no turning back. It is what it is. You birth that child, it's like your life changes overnight. Even positive changes can result in very stressful feelings. All right. So I want to introduce to you the psychology of change. This was actually built on a model that was developed by William Bridges back in 1991, who was a researcher who realized, and he was actually a pastor, and what he realized is that when people go through change, it mimics how people feel when they experience a death. And what he talked about is that the first thing that happens is ending, and that is letting go. Then people move to a neutral state, which can be very numb. And at some point, you do go into a new beginning stage. And Kubler-Ross built on this model, and came up with the 6 phases of change. There are a lot of different models out there. In fact, you'll even see Kubler-Ross's a lot of different variations of their change model out there, and I've got a couple on here. But I want to talk with you about these 6 phases of change. And that is, you know, the first thing that happens is shock. And then we go into denial. And an expression of denial is resistance. And then we have disorientation, exploration, and commitment. So let me give you an example of that. Last night, and every day, your employees and you will experience this change cycle with every new change that comes our way as a derivative of this, what we're experiencing right now. So for example, last night, we have this webinar planned for today. Last night, Governor Newsom, state of California, announces a stay-at-home mandate. A stay-at-home mandate overnight. Stay-at-home mandate. Okay, so we're all watching this on TV and just going, what the heck? What is going through our minds? What does that mean? Denial is, you know what denial is? I'm at the office today. Denial resistance is I showed up at the office today. So, and the way I got around that was, you know, my office is like my home. Okay, so I'm using my own definition of home in this moment, but let's face it, it's resistance. I know that next week when all of us are working from home, there's going to be quite a bit of disorientation as we try to figure out how we're going to interact together in this new environment. I know for a fact that the webinar development for this week that we've been really like all hands on deck on, that it would have been very difficult in a remote environment to do what we did, because on top of getting ready for this webinar, we are also, this is new technology for us using Zoom. We've been using Adobe Connect for years. We decided on this webinar to try something new. Why not? We thought, okay, we're going to jump into something that's going to be new, just like what you all are going to experience. Technology haven't used before. What the heck? So there may be some glitches, let's face it, but so far so good. All right, so there's disorientation. And then at some point you start to ask questions. Disorientation is like having one foot in and one foot out. It can feel like quicksand. And then you start to figure out, okay, so maybe you are getting some benefit from this. You know, I think I can handle it. This is 2 feet in right here. 2 feet in is commitment. So a further expression? Thank you. Thank you. Further expression. Thank you, Carita. She's our English major. All right, thank you. A further expression of the change model, Kurt Kubler-Ross, you know, has more specificity on this. So you go from shock to denial. This is disbelief. Looking for evidence. This isn't true, right? How many people, I mean, I don't know about you, but for sure denial and resistance when the coronavirus first, it's like, oh, yeah. No, this isn't going to happen, right? It's not going to happen here. Oh, it's a political thing. You know, all these reasons that we come up.
It doesn't affect young people, you know, or right. It's only, yeah, it's in another country.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be that bad here in the US.
No.
Yeah, Maria says it feels surreal. It does, Maria. There's like there aren't enough adjectives to describe what this feels like right now, right? It's unprecedented.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, type in those feelings, everybody. Type in those feelings. Like, how are you feeling? How are people feeling around you? Look at this. You go to frustration. Damn it, things are going to be different. Depression, low mood, lack of energy. I bet most people on this webinar have felt really stuck. Yeah. Really, really stuck, especially because you're not around the energy of other people. For those of you who haven't already worked in a remote environment, I don't know, I'm an extrovert. I get energized by being around people. Okay, that's why I love what I do so much. I'm around people all the time. But we're having to change our business model right now. We're shifting everything to remote. Our training is remote. Our coaching is remote. Our consulting is remote. You know, we had a remote conversation with Sound Transit the other day. It was awesome. We were all on video. We're like, this isn't so bad. We can do this. And so it was really good. But experimenting, right? So that's sort of what happened with Sound Transit. Decision how to work in the new situation. Starting to feel more positive. And a renewed state of inspiration. This can happen. You're starting to integrate this remote management, for example, into the way in which you do things. These are some of the things that are called upon for the leader, which we're going to get to next. Concern. These are feelings. Helpless, concern, information overload. Yeah.
Yeah. Vicki says motivated to help customers. That's great, Vicki.
Yeah. Good for you, right?
Concern, Tamika. Care and concern for loved ones living abroad. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So there's a study that came out from the University of California Medical Center, and it focused on organizations through significant change. And here's what they found. This is to normalize your experience and to normalize the experience of the people that you are overseeing. And by the way, we've got some CEOs on this webinar. So you are actually overseeing the psyche of your company. 20% of people embrace change pretty quickly. This is the other end of this. So this is one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is 20% had such a negative reaction that they're physically affected. 60% had varying levels of resistance. No wonder you feel overwhelmed, because the majority of the people going through this, including yourself, is feeling some level of resistance. And I want to remind you, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but if I did, I'll say it again. The less life experience you have, meaning the younger you are, the more fear you're going to have, and the resistance and more resistance. Life experience helps us develop that resilience muscle. So be wary, be concerned. Definitely check in with your young people, your kids, especially. I asked my son last night, how are you feeling? You know, he's 17 years old. He said, I feel lonely and bored. And I said, what do you need from me? What do you need from me and your dad right now? And he said, I want you to be home more. Honest. Yeah. And I said, well, I will be. Yeah, I will be. So that was an important conversation. Check in with your people. You can ask the same questions of your employees, you know, and ask, don't do a survey. You know, get on a video conference. How are you feeling? Watch their face. So let's talk about the leader's role in this. First of all, okay, I'm going to go back to the change cycle, okay? Okay, so let's talk about managing feelings. Okay, so we'll go back to this for a second. So some of you, first of all, most of your employees are probably, I'm going to use a new feature. Here goes, everybody. Let's see if it works. All right, let's see. There we go. Most of your employees, right? Are you proud of me, Carita?
I am. You're doing great.
I know. Okay, most of you and your employees are probably right here. Some people are here. Most people are going to be right in this zone right here. Okay. Here's the hard part about leadership. This is where you have to wear your big leadership pants, skirts, shoes. Regardless of how you feel, even though you're feeling resistant and denial, as a leader, your focus needs to be on your employees' feelings, not your own. For you to manage through your feelings, go to trusted peers in your peer group. Go to somebody you can trust and express your feelings with your peer group so that you all can work through your own feelings. But when you're addressing your staffs, your focus is on their feelings. And part of leadership is to act over here, is to express confidence and to not show your fear of, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. I'm afraid of this, okay? Even if you have that fear, if we express that to our employees, we're going to enroll them and make them more fearful. Be very careful of what's being expressed right now, verbally, in writing. How can you secure the confidence? Even though there's uncertainty, they need to know that somebody's in charge, that somebody has their back, regardless of whether they end up keeping their jobs or not. Okay, so that's one thing we need to do, to focus on our employees' feelings and manage your own feelings with others, people you trust. I got to get back to my, get rid of my pen, go back to my laser pointer. Okay, so listen to concerns, rumors, and fears. In order for people to move along that change cycle, we have got to listen. We've got to be checking in with them personally, not just about what's happening with the project. Have intentional time before a staff meeting. Check in with people personally. Anything you want to share about what's going on with you. How are you feeling? Okay. Ask, what's the latest rumor you've heard? Ask people, what's the latest rumor you've heard? I hear that, people are going to get laid off. I hear that, we're not going to be in business in 6 months, whatever that is. Be the rumor catcher and assuage any concerns, fears, and rumors right there and nip it in the bud. Empathize, respond, and our job is to help nudge them along that cycle of change. Understanding that sometimes people can really stay stuck. And the more you can listen, empathize, and also show confidence and provide direction, keep your scheduled meetings. Keep training, make it virtual instead of live. Allow people to get coaching. You coach them. Anything that can remain the same, keep it the same. You are the lighthouse. How can you create an environment of a lighthouse? with the things that you do have control over, because there's so much right now that we don't have control over. So, Carita, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm thinking that empathy is something that everybody is able to feel, but we need to also make sure that we're expressing it out loud, right? I cannot state the under importance of being empathetic and letting your know that you really do, you are in there. I mean, you really are. We're all feeling a lot of empathy right now. So I want to challenge you, maybe give you a little homework to think about, what does empathy sound like? How will you say that's really authentic and coming from you? So feeling empathy is one thing, really saying it out loud, right? Expressing empathy out loud is something that I think we all should practice. So
yeah, exactly. And sometimes,
yeah, we have a comment in the chat box. Empathy and sympathy are two of the most important currencies that we need to spend right now in this time of crisis. Wow, great quote, Michael.
That's wisdom popping out.
Yeah.
By the way, that's exactly life experience and tough times that will develop wisdom. You know, and wisdom is something that's deeper than intellect, and it only comes with life experience. So, Michael, good job on that. So, all right, so let's talk about some strategies that you can employ. We've talked about the heart part, and that was pretty quick. But let's talk about communication. All right, that's one of the big things that people really wanted to know about. So we're going to talk about communication. First of all, excuse me. All right, select a point person. Select a point person. If you're a person who oversees a department, an organization, if you haven't done so, select one point person by which all information flows. Okay? Any updates on the coronavirus goes to this person. Anything from the World Health Organization goes through this person. Any updates from the federal, regional, state, county, local governments, that there is a point person by which all information flows, who can synthesize through the noise and make sure that there is a consistent message that's going back out to the employees. What we don't want to have happen is to have people getting all sorts of disparate information across the organization. In the survey, when we asked the question, what's not working? You know, what are the challenges? Several people said, there is so much inconsistent messaging coming from the top in our organization. And that some of the information that came out was counter to what was being expressed through the CDC. Okay, so, or through the World Health Organization, that there was conflicting messages. Get a point person, they can sift through the noise, make sure that that person is running it through the highest level in the organization to get the check off. How do we make sure that the CEO's narrative is woven into that message of inspiration, that message of it's going to be, we're in this together, whatever that message is, that gets woven into that at the same time. But select one point person from a strategy standpoint. Maybe that's an HR person. Maybe that's an EHP person. Okay, so it could be anybody. Maybe it's a person who's in charge of communication. If you don't have somebody who's in charge of internal communication in your organization, this is the time to designate it. This is something that we've been recommending to clients over the last 10 years, is to make sure you've got an internal communication point person, because communication without a crisis, without change, is the number one issue and challenge in the workplace with every client we work with, be it public sector, private sector, small, medium, and large. It's the number one issue. Designate, this is the time, and give them what your expectations are, what they should do in that role. Write it out, make sure it's clear so that there's shared meaning around what that means. And they can help you develop that as well. Yeah, Carita, you're a communication specialist too, so jump in.
I just wanted to also just jump in and point out the wariness that we should have around social media, right? A lot of people really rely on social media for their news and information. Your organization might have, you know, employee sites on Facebook or on Instagram where employees are jumping in and expressing, you know, the latest news that they've heard. So I really just wanted to put an exclamation point behind Teri's advice to have a point person, because there can be so much misinformation spread on social media.
You got it. Thank you, Carita. That's excellent. Thank you for that. And so, right, we have our employees, but then you also have your clients and your customers. What are you communicating? You're seeing a lot of things come through email, right? In the airline industry, you know, JetBlue, I want you to know we're sanitizing, you know, we're still in business and all that kind of stuff. Whatever that is, what is that consistent message that goes out from your organization that comes from the top, the CEO, the person in charge? Whatever that message is, make sure it's clear and consistent, and make sure your employees hear that message before it goes out to the customers and clients, so that everybody knows what's going on. This is the time for intentionality around communication. You can't over communicate. This is so funny. My son is calling me right now. Hello, honey, I'm on a webinar. All right. So I want to introduce to you, I don't know if we've got the actual slide. No, we don't. Okay. So here's a model for you, a tool for communicating a change. And it's really straightforward. And that is Aribia. This is what you can follow when any change occurs. E stands for explain the change. Okay, explain the change. R stands for what's the rationale behind the change. Okay, explain it. What's the rationale? It's pretty clear these days if you're doing work from home in the state of California, the rationale is that it's been mandated. So, okay, we're working from home. Here's the rationale behind it. Let me explain to you what that means by working from home. Let me explain to you what it means about how we're going to be communicating. Let me explain to you about what that means in terms of how we're going to run meetings. Here's what's going to be the same. Here's what's going to be different. Here are the negotiables. Here are the non-negotiables in the work from home environment. Explain the rationale. I stands for impact. Help our employees understand the impact of the change, the impacts of the change, the impacts of working from home. The impacts might be that you'll feel a sense of no routine, that you're gonna struggle with routine. The impact is you may be struggling with distractions because your kids are home. The impacts are, and the impacts can be negative and positive. The impacts are, we're gonna save on gas. The impacts are, our organization's gonna save money, which is really good during these times. Okay, now the impacts can be impacts on the customer, impact on the business, impact on the bottom line, be honest. Impact on the team, impact on them personally. Of all those impacts, the one they're going to be most interested in is going to be what? Them. So this is where you want to make sure that you explain the impacts on them. And if you don't know what all of them are, you can even say that. I don't even know yet what all the impacts are going to be on you, but I'm going to leave it up to you, please, to let me know what your experience is like through this remote environment. Okay. Benefits. What are the benefits of the change? I already mentioned those a little bit under the impact, right? Some of the benefits are a little more flexibility in your work schedule. For those of you, some of you are going to decide, Carita's going to talk a lot about this on the remote management webinar that's left, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. Explain the benefits. I stands for invite questions. A stands for ask for a commitment. The A in Aribia is really important because, thank you, Carita. A is really important because if you can ask for a reasonable commitment, excuse me, if you can ask for a reasonable commitment, it'll get them to nudge along that psychology of change, those emotions that people feel along the change cycle. A reasonable an unreasonable commitment would be, you know, you just need to figure out a way. I'd like you to commit that you are going to figure out a way to not have distractions during the workday, that you are going to need to work, you know, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 during this change. That's probably unreasonable, especially as people try to transition. What is reasonable? I'd like to ask from all of you that when we do have our meetings, and we're going to have one daily, a daily briefing, a daily conversation, that you, any rumors you hear, any new, anything new that's happening in your situation, that you bring it to our conversation in our meetings, or you call me one-on-one, you call me, or you email me so that we can talk on the phone, so that can I have your commitment that you'll come to me and you'll come to the team, or you'll come to the team in our meetings to share what's going on with you. You know, maybe someone, their spouse gets laid off. You know, let's share that stuff. Let's just share that stuff. It doesn't mean as an employer, you're obligated to do anything about that. This is where you can demonstrate, like Carita said, the empathy and acknowledge. And through this, your team is going to become stronger if you operate from these principles. Speak from the facts, okay? No hyperbole. Don't try to make stuff up. If you don't know the answer to a question, say, I don't know at this time, but I'll do my best to find it. And then get back to everybody on it. Provide exact language. Your communication central point person, make sure that they've got scripting. Everything is written out. Everyone's operating from the same sheet of music, not only internally, but externally with your clients. We've got some clients of ours that are doing a great job with this. Through the survey, we found that there's a pretty huge need for improvement on this, providing exact language. Daily briefings, get with your team daily, make it on video. This is the time to use technology. Share dilemmas, all right? So brainstorm on any dilemma that you're gonna have things that come up that are new. So what are those things? Is it managing, what are some other dilemmas, Carita? What are some other dilemmas that people might face out there through this whole transition?
I think one dilemma is just various levels of comfort and education with technology, right? Some people are going to immediately be able to pick up some of these tools using the chat features that are available out there. And some people are going to need a little bit more, you know, training and education and hand-holding about it.
Yeah.
I think a dilemma is also going to be just the physical space to be able to work at home. Some
Excellent.
people are going to have, you know, available space in their home to set up a comfortable workspace. And some people are not going to be able to do that with as much ease. So I think those are a couple of dilemmas that folks might be experiencing. We've got something in the chat box, forging bonds between teams and people who haven't worked together before. Yeah, absolutely. How do you establish that teamwork, you know, when you are perhaps working with someone that has been a virtual stranger to you, but also an employee in the organization? You know, Teri, you and I talked about new hires yesterday. Gosh, you know, what do you do if you have someone who's recently on board, who's just starting to get acclimated to the business environment, how this happens? So those are just a few examples of dilemmas.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So share it with your team. Help them help you solve it. You are not going to be perfect through this. This is a time for all of us to exchange ideas. So share dilemmas with your team. Provide direction with confidence. Even though you might be feeling wobbly inside, provide direction with confidence. We cannot underestimate the importance of inspiration. And that's why we wanted to have part of that on this webinar. How can we be inspiring? How can we be a little playful? On the webinar that's next about remote management, Carita will have a fun little thing that she's going to interject in there, you know, so anything that you can do to provide some levity and humor. You know, so take your moment to inspire. I've got a client who's a CEO, runs a company, and her refrains right now are, we're all in this together and we're going to do the right thing as an organization. We're all in this together and we're going to do the right thing as an organization. Okay, so that right there starts to instill confidence and a sense of whatever happens is going to be fair. It might not feel good. Being fair might not feel good. It may actually have an impact that's hard, but doing the right thing, that they're going to have that core compass about the decision-making that they have. This is where we also have to be careful about not making promises we can't keep. Don't make any promises that you know we can't keep. If you say, you know what, we're not going to be laying people off, you don't know that. You don't know that unless you're the head of the company. And to be real about that, if that is in fact coming, letting people know. So those are some of the communication strategies. During times like this, people need more support, more direction. Again, refrain from cancellations. Keep the same business practices that you always have. Do it virtually, whatever that is. The more people start seeing cancellation, that will cause more uncertainty and more instability through this change. Some of these strategies, we're not going to have time, but I'm just going to list some. This is because we're running, I want to make sure and get to some of our final thoughts on this and allow for Q&A. And that is, if you don't have a contingency plan, this is the time to do it. For some of you in the transit industry that are on this webinar, as you know, we are, one of our clients is Eno, and we help develop and deliver some of their leadership programs. We just came back from DC, and we'd done a week-long leadership boot camp before the week before everything started really turning hard. And there's a simulation that we do back there on contingency planning, what that is, how to write a contingency plan, all the factors you have to that you have to integrate. So have a contingency plan around emergencies. And this, if you haven't got one, do it now. Guideposts for decision making. This is something that we did as an organization. We are asking all of our clients, everyone on the webinar, make sure you put together your guideposts for decision making. And this is going to be your compass through all of this. For us, number one is we want our employees to be safe and healthy and their families. That's our number one. Our number two is business continuity, which leads to clients. How can we be there for our clients in a way that's helpful in this changing time? Financials. We are a boutique business. Cash flow is everything, right? So that's our guidepost right now. And it may change as we go through this, but right now that is going to be our anchor, what we're going to go to when we say, what are we going to do with this dilemma? Develop your staff. This is also a great time to develop your staff, to work on those things. Covey calls it the not urgent but important. That training you've been putting off, go for it. Develop your staff. We're already looking into things on our teams. How can we broaden our consulting practice? How can we improve our knowledge, etc., and our skills? Focus on big rocks. We go through that exercise, big rocks versus rice, and what are those big rocks? So the not urgent and important. Again, there's all of these could be its own webinar, right? Ooh, Maya, what we got here? We started daily inspiration for the day earlier this week to share with our team. Song, poem, image. Yesterday was food for thought. Shakespeare wrote King Lear while he was quarantined during the plague, right?
Love that.
Isaac Newton too. Developed calculus. Ew, not such a great thing for some. I love math. Some people don't. But yeah, right? This is a time to innovate. Absolutely. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to open it up for some Q&A for about 7 minutes, and then we're going to bring this home. Okay? What questions do you have? Write them in the chat box. What questions? Is there something that you want to share that your organization has tried? Here's another one from Tim Thomas. This will remove some of our take for granted, complacent ways to task. Good is soon to come. Wonderful. Love it. Love it. So go ahead and type in, what questions do you have? What thoughts do you have? What have you tried and applied in your own organization? Right? Let's share. Let's do some sharing right now. Part of our webinar is also called the discussion roundtable. In future, some of what we do in our webinars is we have people activate their webcams and everyone's on video. We have people activate their mics and ask things live. And again, because this is a new platform that we're using, we decided to keep it a little more simple this time. But we are going to be using those features later. We actually, as Insight Strategies, we have something called coaching roundtables, and where we bring people together and share ideas. We facilitate that, and people come in and share ideas and dilemmas on things, and we provide teaching and training along the way. And then we pose something to the group, and then people chat about it, work about it, and then share ideas. So this is the opportunity in this webinar. So
while we're waiting for that, Teri, I just wanted to refer to a few things that we heard on the pre-webinar survey, if that's
oh,
okay.
please, that'd
Yeah,
be
good.
fantastic.
But guys, feel free to jump in, use the chat feature, use the Q&A feature, and I believe there's also a raise your hand feature.
Let's do it in the chat box. Let's do it in the chat box.
Okay, chat box.
We're going to keep it to the chat box this time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so in the chat box, right, what is just anything that you're dealing with that maybe you want some peer coaching and counseling on, or anything that you have tried that's been able to get your team through this uncertain time. So just what Maya shared is exactly what we're looking for, right? So I will, Tim has already jumped in, awesome. Tim says, I'm in the nonprofit world, and the virtual volunteer has already been a positive of this negative. Yes, nonprofits are retooling on the fly, and it's challenged their norms in a good way. Love that, Tim, right? The virtual volunteer has already been a positive of this negative. I'm going to kind of interpret, I think, what I think that means, that phrase, Tim. But what I think that means is in communities all over the country, there are organizations that are popping up, like Teri mentioned, the one on Nextdoor, where, you know, people are saying, who needs me to go and shop for them? You know, donations, who needs donation? You know, what does the food bank need? And when is the food bank taking donations? It's really been remarkable how people have stepped in to volunteer and help each other. There have been, you know, Teri was telling me about someone in their neighborhood that has extra lettuce that they grow in their garden. So they are saying, you know, anybody who needs lettuce, come in and get it.
Here's my address. Come take it.
Yeah, we have a neighbor with orange trees that had a bucket outside of their door with a sign saying oranges, please take, you know. So yeah, that stuff has been terrific.
And you know,
then on the
go right ahead.
The pre-survey webinar, what we're seeing is daily conference calls from the CEO with updates. I'm seeing shared databases, right? If that is not something that you had in the past, this is now the time to look at a shared database like Dropbox, or, you know, the many tools that Google offers to be able to share documents and information with each other. And then, yeah, I think just sharing resources. There have been a lot of technology tools that are doing really special things right now because of the coronavirus, like Zoom, for example. The platform that we're using right now used to have their free version limited to a 40-minute meeting, and they've now lifted that 40-minute restriction on the free version. So when, you know, when you hear things like that, sharing them with other people in your organization, any tools that you're coming across that have little perks like that they've changed because of coronavirus would be great for us to know about. So
it's such a great point, Carita, because, you know, the customer focus has really been beautiful. And this is a time for you to secure customer loyalty. You know, for example, we had to really think through what are our skills, talents, and knowledge that we can provide back. So this is where we came up with this webinar idea. And of course, it's a way to promote what we do, of course, and that's okay. It's okay. We all need to help each other, right? So whatever it is that your organization does, what can you do to further secure customer loyalty and client loyalty at this time? Reach out. I've been calling some of my clients, right? Some at all levels of the organization, just checking in, like, I'm here for you. This is new. I'm here for you. You know, anything like that that can further, you know, just secure that customer loyalty. Because we've been talking a lot about kind of that internal focus here as a leader, but then also there's that external piece and how do we manage that? So there's a couple more in here. Lou says, what sort of social contracts or expectations should be set for remote working interactions to strengthen team bonds while maintaining performance? Carita's going to take the lead on the next webinar, and she will be talking about that.
Yeah, so if you didn't know about it, if you haven't signed up for it, we're doing a second webinar about an hour and a half after this one, I believe, on managing remote teams, working with remote employees. But guys, jump in the chat box. What thoughts do you have for Lou's question? What sort of social contracts or expectations should be set for remote working interactions to strengthen team bonds while maintaining performance? So jump in the chat box and share your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
We're going to share some of our solutions and strategies to that in the webinar. But one thing that I'll add is, again, just making sure that there are sort of, I don't want to say no person left behind, but there are people who are going to be less likely to speak up and voice the loneliness or the concern or the uncertainty that they have. So really asking your team members to really support each other, having a set or a triad of your team members connecting with each other a couple of times a week would be a great way to do that. So little sort of small group moments, more intimate moments within that larger team would be a great idea to just help with strengthening team bonds. But we're going to give you some more ideas on that in the second webinar, Lou. And if you're not able to make that webinar, please do sign up for it anyway, because we're going to try to make the recording available next week. So go ahead and register, and we'll see what we can do to make sure that that gets to you.
All right, thank you. We're going to round out the last few minutes with some thoughts. And so let me see here. There we go. Wanted to share a commencement address from a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, Admiral Bill McRaven. And it was for the University of Texas. And he offered the 10 life lessons he learned from basic SEAL training. And I'm going to share with you number one. And that is, he said, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. And I got to thinking through these times, how about get out of bed first? First get out of bed and then make it. So we're going to have a little caveat on that. Why in the world would that be his number one? And you know what he says? He says, because you've at least started your day with one success. So this is also symbolic, I think, of what, as a leader, helping your teams create a sense of routine and a sense of stability in a possibly an environment at home that feels a little like, oh my gosh, there's personal things going on and work things moving around in your brain at the same time. Make your bed in the morning, get up, and Carita will talk about some other things about that remote environment, but I loved what he had to say. And then I do, this is a little inspiration. We found this image of on like a fence of some sort that overlooks the strand here. And it says, someone put a wood post on there, like a wood sign, and it says, come unity, community. Those are things popping up all over the place. We are breaking down barriers, not only politically, but from a global standpoint. It's going to be very interesting to see what emerges from all of this and the beautiful gifts that will surface. Speaking of which, I want to share with you an image, and it's called kintsugi. This is actually a Japanese art form, and it's called kintsugi. In the Japanese culture, they consider cracks in pottery as being something beautiful. So much so that when something breaks that's beautiful, they actually repair it with gold. They embrace the flawed and imperfect cracks, and they see it as an event in that life of the object. It's not about covering up its history. It's about embracing its history and all the brokenness. Leadership is not about perfection. Rather, it's about being enriched by life experiences, some of which are positive and some that are very difficult, and it helps shape who we are. This challenge, if we can see it as cracks that will deepen and shape who we are as leaders, then we'll be in great shape. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you joining. What we'd like you to do before you sign off is that next, what'll happen is that when the meeting ends, you're going to be directed to a survey, as soon as we end this meeting. So please fill out that survey. We want to know if this was valuable, what was the most valuable, if there's anything that was less valuable, whatever that is. Okay, I think that would be fantastic. We'd love all of your input on that. Thanks so much, and we're here for you. Bye-bye.